Hello and welcome one and all to my YouTube channel. I'm Rowan and today I'm going to be going through all the books that I read in June. Now I know this video is incredibly late and I just want to get it out and filmed before July. July recap, which hopefully will be on time. I've had a lot going on this month. However, saying that, I had a really good reading month in June because I actually read 10 books, which felt amazing. So the 10 books that I read were the last 3 books of the Lockwood & Co series, so that's The Hollow Boy, The Creeping Shadow and The Empty Grave. And then I read Monday's a Murder, Save the Cat, Once Bitten, Twice Dead, This Dark Heart, The Forgotten Voices of the Holocaust, and Wish You Dead, and then Nick and Charlie. I remembered them all. Without further ado, let's get on with the video. So the first book that I read was The Hollow Boy, which was the 3rd book in the Lockwood & Co series. So I started this series a while ago and I stopped reading after the 2nd book because some of the fat phobia was making me feel a little bit uncomfortable, but I picked up this book again because I wanted to finish it, at least give it another chance, maybe DNF it, and I fell back in love with the characters. They have their annoying bits and they have their flaws, like Lofi, who is the narrator of this book. She has a massive fat phobia, especially towards George, and she's such a pick-me girl, especially towards Holly, and this book really highlights it, and it just makes me feel so uncomfortable, and I don't particularly enjoy it. However, saying that, the Lucy and Lockwood relationship dynamic, gorgeous. I love the overall plotline, the story building. It's really quite simple, but really good, and I really enjoy it. George can be a massive know-it-all, and Lockwood as well, but they have their redeeming qualities and they are really good, nice characters. Immediately went on to the next book, which is The Creeping Shadow. Now, I wish we got more of the bits where Lucy is away from the agency, where she's not involved, because you only get like a couple of chapters before she goes running off back to them, and I wish we just got more of that because it felt like such a throwaway thing that happened, and I felt like it was just used for shock value in the end of the 3rd book, and I didn't enjoy it, and I wish we had more of it because it could have been so much good. It could have really developed their characters a lot more before they got back together as a group. Saying that, I do love Holly. You get to know a bit more about her, and I have to say my favourite character in this book is Kips. It feels weird that he kept being called Quill in this book because in the last 3 books you only hear him as Kips, and I love his character. I'm not expecting it, but it's so good. There's still quite a bit of fat shaming, but it's a lot less. But yeah, overall like plotline I really liked. I found just the general ghost hunting really interesting. I then went to read the 5th and final book of the Lockwood & Co series, The Empty Grave. I love this book. Lucy's a lot less pick-me, so you really get to see Holly's personality shine. Also, Holly's gay, wanted more of that, but we love a lesbian character, or at least I think she's lesbian. It's not confirmed her actual sexuality, but it's very much heavily implied, which I love. The Lucy and Lockwood, the Lockisle of this book, love it. I did go on to immediately read so many fanfictions because I'm a fanfiction girly, but I just love their characters. I wish we got more of them, especially if they're maybe even confirmed, but I did thoroughly enjoy it. I loved the dynamics between all of the characters and how it really growed. The Lucy and Ghost, the Ghost in the Jar, I love their dynamic and their sass, and I loved that they did a head-to-head with Marissa and her ghost, and it was really, I just loved it. I wish when Lockwood joined the fight, at least George came with him, so that you could have had that face-off with the three of them against the big fat threat, which was Marissa. However, it would have been even better to have Kips and Holly in there as well, because they are a team. However, I love this book so much, and I wish there was more. I do, still. So if you have any fanfiction recommendations, let me know down below, because I need more of them. So the fourth book I read was Mondays Are Murder. I had such high hopes for this book, but it wasn't as good as I thought. I did really like it. I like the concept. I like how it was split into days, because it really built the suspense. However, some of the characters felt a bit bland. The plot points felt like sometimes they were just trying to make, the author was just trying to make you confused and shock you, and it was just for shock value. Also, the relationship at the end that develops between the main characters doesn't make sense. It wasn't really hinted at, and it just made me a bit confused, honestly. But I did really enjoy her writing style. The only thing I will say as well is there are too many chapters for the amount of books. There is like, I think it's like 80 chapters, and there's only there's 82 chapters, and there's 38 pages. There's 438 pages, and it felt like they were trying to cram too much in, too many chapters for the amount of content that there was, which I wish they'd sort of put a break on it. But saying that, I did really enjoy this book. Okay, the next book I read was Save the Cat. I don't know how to explain this book. It was interesting. It had a lot of really good points for screenwriting, and I do think it is a bit of a must-read for screenwriters. However, not necessarily for the content, because Blake Snyder he loves the sound of his own voice. He takes a simple point and takes it and drags it on and pulls it apart, and just, he says the same thing in 1,000 different ways, and it's so boring. And he just loves to show off the directors he knows, the screenwriters he's worked with, and it just didn't work. He had so many good points, and it just was covered in this, I know better than you, I'm a screenwriter, which is why I think it is a good book for screenwriters to read, so that you don't get into that sort of thing, because don't get arrogant like he is. And yeah, I didn't particularly like it. It had some good points, like I said, but I didn't enjoy reading it. The next book I read was Once Bitten and Twice Dead. This was very much a nostalgic read. I really liked it, but it's very much for the OG fandom for Monster High. The characters felt so authentic. It did feel a bit weird that it was a YA, but I kind of get it, because the OG fandom have obviously grown up and now, are young adults. However, it felt slightly weird to read about my childhood favourite characters in slightly more mature scenarios. There's nothing actually bad, there's just some more teenage talk, if that makes sense. But no, it was really good. She really encapsulated the characters in a way that honestly just felt amazing to read. Sometimes the monsterized words took me a second to get what they were of the monsterization of, fantastic instead of fantastic. That was one of the easier ones, but things like that just sort of took me a second to go, wait, what is that? But overall, I really love that. I love that Claudine is gay in this. I wish it was with Draculaura, because Claudine and Draculaura are amazing. But it's with Toralei, and I do really quite like their relationship. I did love Draculaura's relationship that they have in this book. Can't remember his name. Poe. Dracula and Poe, they were so cute. And honestly, I felt heartbroken at the end with how the story ends because of their relationship and their character arcs, which I wasn't expecting, not gonna lie. But yeah, no, I did really enjoy it. I think. Okay, the next book I read was a sapphic fantasy YA, which is This Dark Heart. I love this book. I really did. I wish we got more from the actual main relationship, because we didn't get a lot. We got a lot of the main characters in a dialogue and how she thought of it, but you didn't get many interactions because, you know, the love interest does get kidnapped pretty early on in the book. However, I did love the side romance between the brother and the hero. Not really hero, but that sort of character. The hero archetype. I'm not explaining that correctly. But those two, their side romance, because you get so much more of them actually interacting, I much prefer that, and I wish because of that you can see the potential of their relationship, so you kind of want more. So that's all I really have to say about that. I did love the overall plotline, the adventure, the little side quests that they go on. I really love that. The final fight felt so anticlimactic though, because I felt that there were points where they would fight for a bit and then they would talk, and then they would be like, oh yeah, we need to fight, but then we need to talk, and inner dialogue and all that. And it was interesting, and the moral dilemma of what's going on is really important, and it is a narrative that's really good. I just wish that had been sort of wrapped up before the end fight, so that there was a bit more fighting than, you know, dialogue in a really intense way that just wasn't, because you're just like, okay, do something. Saying that, I did really love the ending, and I did thoroughly enjoy reading this book. So yeah. So the next book that I read is a book that I think everybody needs to read, especially now with what's going on in America, and that is The Forgotten Voices of the Holocaust. It's such an impactful story because it is pretty much purely made out of the stories of the thing. At the start of each chapter you get it's split into parts of the war. So at the start of the chapter you'll get a small paragraph about what's going on at that time, and then the rest of the chapter is made up of short paragraphs of people's stories. The only thing that I think this could have been better with is grouping people's stories together, because you'll often find as you're reading a chapter, you're reading through different people's stories, that one person will appear at the start of the chapter and then the same person will appear at the end of the chapter talking about the same sort of thing. And I wish that had been put together, because I felt like it would have really impacted you a lot more as you get to see them grow throughout the war. However, I can see why they've done it like that, because it does sort of show you everyone's point of view. But overall, yeah, this is such an important story, and it is one that everybody needs to read. Absolutely everybody. So after that, I ended up reading Wish You Were Dead. Now, not gonna lie, this book ended up being a bit different from what I expected. And it took me probably an embarrassing amount of time to realise that this was a King Arthur retelling in a modern day setting. When I picked this book up, I really thought it was going to be the typical YA thriller, someone's a killer, whatever, and it had elements of that, but it was so much different and it was amazing. I loved it. So with it being a King Arthur retelling, it is through Morgana's point of view, and I love her. She is such a bitch, but she is amazing. She has the flaws. She is also very much a victim. Like, you really feel for it, and you honestly kind of hate, like, Arthur or Art or Lancelot particularly. And the only thing, if you're going to pick up this book, don't read too much of the blurb, because it does spoil slightly too much. Because in the blurb, it tells you something that happens in, like, halfway through the book, probably a bit more, and you're constantly waiting for it to happen, and it doesn't, and then you're like, what's going on? Is it not going to happen? Is it? And so it sort of takes away some of the enjoyment of the book. Saying that, I did really love the characters. Celeste and Morgana's relationship is just amazing. I love Celeste. I also really love Celeste because she's such a mysterious character. She's a mystery girl. But yeah, no, I just love this book. Honestly, it's probably one of the best books I read this year. So the final book that I read in June was Nick and Charlie. Now, this is a novella of, you know, the Heartstopper characters, and I love it. I love anything Heartstopper, so that might just be it. But Alice Oseman perfectly. She knows these characters inside and out, and it shows. It's so good. The events of this story really will strengthen and really make their relationship go from a secondary teenage romance to something that can grow with them as they turn into young adults and go to university and all that stuff. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. I think it's a book that if you're a Heartstopper fan, you should try, you know? Okay, we've got bad lighting for the ending because my light decided to... Yeah, no, those were the 10 books that I read in June. Do you agree with what I said? Let me know down below. I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, please consider giving it a like, comment, and possibly even subscribing. Let me know down below any book recommendations you have. I'm always looking up for good ones, especially sapphic romances. Let me know if you've got any recommendations down below. I would love to hear it. But until next time, bye!